Already less than a week away to the unofficial start of Halloween season, and I can't decide. So I'm going to head to the cave, make a list, compare, contrast a little, and figure out who has the upper hand. Oh, spoiler alert, there's no clear winner here. Bang, bang. It's the question that gets asked every single year. Which is better, Halloween Horror Nights or Not Scary Farm? We're going to dive in a little bit to the details and see what we can come up with as far as comparing and contrasting. And I'll let you obviously make your decisions based on this info that I'm going to give you. Keep in mind, this is all just to date. There still could be things that are announced later on for one side. But at this point, these are the stats that I have. So let's just get right into it. A big factor that helps a lot of people with the decisions that they make is pricing. While the two events are the biggest in Southern California, the prices have a tendency to vary. Some offer some things that the other doesn't. So we'll start from the bottom, kind of work our way up. For Horror Nights, the tickets are starting at $74. And for Scary Farm, the tickets are starting at $60. Keep in mind, this ticket only gets you into the park. I'm going to start with Horror Nights. If you just get a general admission, it doesn't really matter what day you go. You won't be able to do everything. I have heard stories in the past of people that have been able to get everything done and some. Lately, that hasn't been the case. Ever since basically the lockdowns in 2020, after that, the last 2 years have been incredibly busy. Whether you want to go on a Wednesday, a Sunday, or a Saturday or a Friday, you're going to be shoulder to shoulder with people. That's just the vibe that Horror Nights puts out now. It's the most popular attraction for Halloween in Southern California, and there's people that travel in from around the world to come experience this. So you have to kind of remember that going in. If you're just going to get a general admission, you're going to be paying more, and you're going to have access to a lot less. Scary Farm, on the other hand, can be hit or miss sometimes. For the last couple years, granted, this year is a special year, so things might be a little bit different this time around. But even last year, there were nights that Andrea went, Fridays and Saturdays, where the park empties out around midnight, so you have an extra hour to do some houses that maybe you put off until the end of the night. We walked through Mesmer numerous times. We went 3 times, all 3 times. Mesmer was a ghost town after about 11:30. Now, in the beginning of the night, that line extends all the way through the railroad tracks, all the way out to Accelerator. So you have to kind of play, you have to kind of know the game, but it's possible. At Horror Nights, that doesn't happen. Every maze, the shortest line by the end of the night is probably about 45 minutes. Keep in mind also, with the cheaper general admission, there is a lot more things to do. So you probably won't have time to do everything, but for a different reason. The offerings are just too great at Scary Farm. There's 10 mazes, 4 shows, and 5 different scare zones. So that's going to bring us to the next ticket offering that both parks have, and that is Universal Express and Knott's Fright and Fast Lane. Universal Express, this ticket includes admission into the park. So all you have to buy is one ticket. This isn't an add-on. So while it is a little bit cheaper, keep in mind what it offers. You are only admitted express access to each maze and attraction one time. Then you have to wait in the general admission lines if you want to do anything over again. Fright and Fast Lane, you get express access all night. I just think this is a better value. It's a little bit more, but you get way more bang for your buck here. But I think Universal kind of got the hint that the one-time access isn't the best for some people. So you also have the option to upgrade your Express to an Express Unlimited. Obviously, it costs a little bit more, but you have now unlimited access to all the mazes and attractions. One thing that Knott's is doing also this year is their all-inclusive pass, which includes a meal and drink plan along with your park ticket. Something that Knott's Scary Farm does that Universal Studios does not. While Universal does have some specialty food areas down on the lower lot, Knott's Scary Farm has a ton of food offerings. We went over pretty much everything they had to offer this year last week. So getting a food pass, well, all of the items aren't on the food pass. A majority of them are, and a lot of them look really good. So having a chance to tack on a couple extra bucks to your admission ticket and basically get free food and drink for the night, that's not a bad deal. And that pass also does include the Fright and Fast Lane and free parking. So to this point, Horror Nights has not had any kind of parking add-ons to any of the tickets. If you don't want to pay the full $200 to get the Fright and Fast Lane and the parking added onto it, you can just get the admission meal bundle, which is just your general admission ticket, and then a meal bundle, which gives you access to the scary good items that are on the menu. A couple things that Horror Nights does do that Scary Farm does not is they have their day and night pass, which basically allows you into the park at 2 p.m. anytime after 2 p.m. And then you can stay there. They give you a special wristband, so when they start doing their daytime park sweep, they leave you in there. So you basically there's like a small little window where the lines will start to shrink before the 5:30 crowd really comes in and starts to take over the park, to where you can get maybe a ride on Jurassic World or Transformers or Simpsons or something that you don't really want to do later in the night, because you're going to be standing in line for all the mazes. And if you don't want to do that, they're doing an add-on, an early park entry. Previous years before, you get certain tickets and you get access to the park early. If you get there at 5:30, they open the gates and you can go in. That is not the case this year. They're using this opportunity to have a $10 add-on to your ticket to get early access to the park. Now, with all that being said, let's take a look at the VIP packages that both parks offer this year. Horror Nights doing the RIP tour, and Scary Farm doing the very important Monster Tour. Now, there is a big price difference between these, and here's why. To my knowledge, Horror Nights is not doing the Haunted Backlot Tour with their VIP tour anymore. It's just a small group of people that are escorted around the park to get one-time VIP access through all the mazes and attractions. Now, with this, you do have to be with a smaller group of people, mostly strangers, unless you buy out a group on your own, to basically follow the itinerary of the park, of the tour guide. After that, I am under the impression that you get express access to the mazes and attractions for the rest of the night, but you also have to be there at a certain time or you're going to miss the tour entirely. And I believe it's between 7 and 7:30. You have to meet at the upstairs section of the guest services to the right side, just when you go in the front gates of Universal. The food, every year it says gourmet menu. I don't know what that means. I've never done it before. I've heard mixed reviews that the food is bleh, or the food is really good. Obviously, alcohol is not involved in this. You have to pay extra for all that. Understandable. So while this is cheaper, you're basically just paying for a one-time guided tour around the park itself. There's really no behind-the-stage stuff involved in this, which, in my opinion, is the reason why you would want to do a VIP tour. You want to be able to do some extra things that other park goers wouldn't be able to do. As far as the very important Monster Tour, yeah, it's expensive. That is by design. They don't offer very many of these, and mostly because it's basically a private tour for the entire night. You are in charge of what you want to do and where you want to go, and you have your VIP access to everything throughout the park. For shows, through mazes, you get your star treatment. So that's kind of what you pay for. You have, I believe it's the buffet meal. It will probably be in a special area, and you have early access to the park with the rest of the buffet guests. There's a lot more to do at Scary Farm this year than there is at Horror Nights. Both are justified prices. Speaking of the buffet, Knott's did bring it back. It's $45. That's something that Horror Nights doesn't give you. Again, Knott's loves to show off their seasonal menus. But the buffet, again, I hear mixed reviews, but mostly positive. With the buffet, you also get early access to the park. Not the full park, just the 4 mazes that are kind of in that back lot on the other side of Ghost Rider there. 4 mazes? Yeah, because you get Waxworks too. So you get Bloodline, Dark Entities, the Depths, and Waxworks. You get early access to those 4. But Buffet, $45, definitely worth it. All these, keep in mind, with Knott's, these are all add-ons to general admission. You have to get your general admission ticket, plus all this other stuff. So hopefully that kind of explains a little bit of the pricing, and will kind of help you make up your mind. Universal is always going to be a little bit more expensive, and that's just because the production cost for them to put the event on is always a little bit more. That being said, I've always seen Universal as more of a Halloween party and not Scary Farm as a Halloween event, if that makes any sense. Universal, as soon as you walk in the front gates, they've got the dubstep playing. They used to have the dancers in the cages and made you feel like you were going into kind of this vampire-y gothic club. It was very pop culture Halloween driven. Big loud music throughout the park. And then now that they have the Dia de los Muertos celebration in the circle there where you can get more alcohol. They've got the club up above Jurassic World where you can get alcohol there. It just feels more like a party, like a Halloween party. They get a lot of pop culture guys to help with their marketing. Slash is always on there. Last year they had The Weeknd. But they also rely heavily on IPs for their mazes to do well. Whether they're well done or not, that's not for me to say. Not Scary Farm brings, they introduce 2 or 3 mazes every year, usually 2. They're retiring 2 this year with the Depths and Dark Entities, which I think it's time for them to go. But they're also introducing a new location underneath the arcade that they haven't used in a very long time. So that's nice to see. But Knott's also is bringing in, 4 shows. So there's so many things to do in such a limited amount of time. The reason why Knott's feels more like a Halloween event and less like a Halloween party is because Knott's utilizes almost every square inch of the park. Nowhere is safe with Knott's. They have, they boast about their 5 different scare zones, and they have, I think what they say, over 150 streetwalkers night to night. So there isn't really anywhere in that park that you can run where you're going to be safe once you're inside those gates. That's something that Universal stopped doing. The first couple of years I went, you knew you were at a Halloween event. There were chainsaws everywhere. They had video packages playing in the queues for all of the mazes. And then about 10 years ago, they kind of stopped doing that. And there's times where you can go to Horror Nights and be standing in a line and you can forget you're at a Halloween event. If they're putting anything down where the Weekend Maze was last year behind Transformers, that line can get really long, and it's back there isolated from everything else. And they don't have any like house music or anything playing. I think they were playing weekend music videos last year there. At Scary Farm, that's never the case. While they don't have the blasting Halloween music playing throughout the park, every single part of that park is vibed out. Even I think in Fiesta Village, they will, that'll be kind of the Halloween party central, but that will still have a horror vibe that will, and who knows, they may have streetwalkers there too. So I don't know. Me personally, I have a long history with Halloween Horror Nights. That being said, I fell in love with Knott's Scary Farm very, very quickly. I didn't do my first night of Knott's Scary Farm until 2017. I had been going to Horror Nights every year for about 10 years before that. A little bit of a late bloomer, but Scary Farm just feels more like Halloween to me. Horror Nights is so much fun. Don't get me wrong. Horror Nights is a blast. But there's something about Knott's Scary Farm that just lets you know, it just hits you in the gut and says, this is Halloween. This year, with Scary Farm being its 50 years, it's got a decided advantage over Horror Nights. And I kind of feel like Horror Nights knew that, and they didn't put their A effort into this. Which is kind of funny because even when they're just putting their B effort into putting an event together, we still get what we get this year, which will be a pretty awesome time. I cannot wait until Halloween starts. The season starts next week, right? We start on the 7th. I think Horror Nights opens. We'll be doing Fright Fest first, which is something we've never done. That'll be a whole new thing. But this is going to be a fun season. And we very, very much look forward to it. I hope you do too. And hopefully we can see you all at Knott's or Horror Nights or Fright Fest next Saturday. That would be awesome. Let's go Halloween. Let's go Halloween.